Namaskar. A warm welcome to the World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Gitanjali Huria Mathur, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring to you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment, and more. The headlines. Union Minister for State for Information and Broadcasting says India will continue to stand by Sri Lanka at all times. Inaugurates visits Jaffna Cultural Centre in Sri Lanka. G20 meeting on environment and climate sustainability concludes in Bengaluru. India continues Operation Dost in quake-devastated Turkey. Syria permits international aid in rebel-held areas. IMF calls for reforms in China's existing growth model and predicts a slowdown in the long term. G20 Tourism Working Group meet in Rann of Kutch extends support to green tourism-based priorities. And in cricket, India wins the first test at Nagpur against Australia by an innings. IMF has again called for comprehensive reforms of China's growth model, saying that China's potential growth has started falling and several headwinds suggest it will continue to slow down considerably over the medium to long term. This is IMF's second warning in a week when it called for reforms to sustain growth, highlighting the diminishing returns of China's investment-led growth model, mainly due to over-resilience on relatively less productive state-owned enterprises, SOEs, and less growth-enhancing real estate sector. IMF also highlighted concerns about the falling share of consumption in Chinese GDP in its selected issues paper released on Friday, which was conducted in mid-December, around the time when China abruptly moved away from its zero-COVID strategy. Even though IMF has upgraded China's growth forecast for 2023 to 5.2% from 4.4% previously, it still has concerns about the medium and long-term outlook. This would severely affect China's target of doubling its gross domestic product, GDP, and becoming a moderately prosperous nation by 2035. World's number 2 economy is facing major challenges such as shrinking population and aging workforce and slowing aggregate productivity. Risks associated with US-China trade war and fears of tech decoupling, especially in the US, ban on chip supplies to China, are further aggravating the situation for China. The death toll in the devastating Turkey-Syria earthquake has crossed 24,000 even as search and rescue operations intensified to find the survivors. The powerful earthquake of 7.8 magnitude rocked large parts of Turkey and Syria early Monday this week, causing unprecedented damage to lives and properties. United Nations Aid Chief Martin Griffiths on Saturday described the earthquake as the worst event in 100 years in this region. Agencies and rescue workers have warned that death toll may rise further as many are still trapped under the rubble. Extreme cold weather is also hampering rescue efforts in search of survivors of the earthquake. India's National Disaster Response Force, NDRF, rescued an 8-year-old girl in the earthquake-hit Turkey on Friday. The girl was pulled out from the debris in Gaziantep, city of Turkey. The operation was carried out along with Turkish army personnel in Nurdagi town of Gaziantep province, according to an NDRF spokesperson. This is the second such rescue by NDRF in the last 24 hours as earlier. NDRF had rescued a 6-year-old girl from the same area on Thursday. The NDRF spokesperson said that the rescuers have saved 2 lives and retrieved 13 bodies from the debris still. The Syrian government has given permission for international aid to be sent to earthquake victims in rebel-held territory in the northwest of the country. According to the state media, the Syrian cabinet has given the go-ahead for delivery of humanitarian aid to all parts of the country, including the rebel-controlled areas. The decision came after days of appeals by aid agencies to get permission for entering the rebel-held area. UN's Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Martin Griffiths, has hailed the move by Syrian government. In today's Hotspot section, we bring to you a discussion on Operation Dost conducted by India in quake-devastated Middle East. In conversation with Anil Kumar Trinuyat, former ambassador and moderator, Arjun J. Chaudhary, AIR correspondent.
I'm joined by Shri Anil Kumar, with whom we will discuss in detail regarding Operation Dost, the search and rescue operations that are being conducted by the Indian Army in the earthquake-hit region of Turkey and Syria. According to the latest estimates, more than 20,000 are reported dead. And on this, we will discuss in detail with Shri Anil Kumar, former diplomat with the Government of India. Anil Kumar ji, do tell us about the magnitude of the devastation in Turkey and Syria, where the Indian Army is right now operating under the code Operation Dost. How far have we succeeded in alleviating the problems faced by the two countries?
Well, as you know, that this is perhaps one of the worst natural disasters that Turkey and that region is facing. I am told that in the history, this is the seventh time that this kind of a thing has happened, and this has killed nearly over 20,000 people, and a large number are still missing. There has been a tremendous loss and damage to the property and the life of the people. So this is a situation in which the international community has risen. But as you know that India, being always the first responder in its neighborhood and elsewhere, we have had a history of assisting people whenever there is a need, whenever there has been a problem, or especially in the case of natural disaster and calamities. And the history is replete with that as far as India is concerned. But this is something that not only in our immediate neighborhood, but also beyond. And that's what Prime Minister Modi, as soon as we learnt about the disaster, he ordered the authorities to immediately provide all the possible assistance to medical assistance, doctors, teams. And I understand that about 6 aircrafts, which are the big ones, CJ, have been sent with relief supplies, with medical hospitals have been set up to Turkey, as well as about 6 tons of supplies to Syria, which has also been handed over by the Indian Charge d'Affaires to the Deputy Minister in Syria, which has been widely appreciated. And the reports that have been coming from the ground, I find that Indian teams are doing an amazing job in a very, very difficult situation, because there is inclement weather, there is an access problem, but they are doing extremely well. It is being highly appreciated. And some of the pictures that have come of a small child being saved, or people on the roads accosting the Indian teams and, felicitating them. So it is in this kind of a crisis, which is the worst crisis for a country at this time, I think that India has risen to the occasion and has shown to the world that it is a first responder in any crisis.
Mr. Anil Kumar, you have been a former diplomat with the Government of India. You have served with Indian Foreign Service. So what are the challenges before the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar when it comes to helping out Turkey and Syria? What are the diplomatic channels by which India is able to become a first responder and help out its allies?
Well, in such situations, as you know, number one, there has to be an intent, and there has to be a capacity and capability of any country. Now, India over time has developed that capability. Of course, the Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, or helping others, or considering world as a family, has always been in the DNA of India and also in the DNA of the Indian foreign policy. As you know, in the capacity building assistance program under the ITEC that India provides to about 160 countries, we have also, during the pandemic, more than 150 countries, India provided all kinds of medical assistance, personnel, online training, and also the vaccines to about 96 countries. Now, those things are not easy to come by. You look at the Sri Lankan situation, you look at the Nepalese situation, you look at the Maldives, Afghanistan, wherever there was a need, India has risen to the occasion. Now, how does it come about? I mean, challenges obviously are there, but of course, the international community can only provide when the host government wants something. So as soon as they approach the international community for assistance, India immediately provides. We have the NDRF teams which are ready. We have a disaster management policy. We have an HADR system that is operative, ever so ready. We have control rooms that are working together. And therefore, we immediately get in touch with the foreign ministry of that country through our embassy. and we inform them about the assistance that we can provide, how it is going. So our External Affairs Minister, Prime Minister, they convey their messages of condolences, of support, and this all works out eventually because there is a streamlined process. But during an emergency, I must say that there are grassroots challenges sometimes of communicating, sometimes of how to handle, because a large number of countries are sending for the host country. Also, it becomes a logistical challenge. But that challenge is worth the trouble because you need that very much.
Do tell us something about the NDRF, the National Disaster Response Force, and the Indian Army. How do they go about carrying out search and rescue operations? It's clearly very difficult just looking at the images of collapsed infrastructure and dead or injured people. How do they actually go about the operations and come out of it successfully?
Well, I'm not a military person, so I cannot tell you exactly how the operation is conducted physically. That only a military officer can brief you or who has handled this. But what I can tell you is that, the Indian military forces and the NDRF teams, they are very committed to the cause. They understand the gravity of the situation. They understand how to, because they are dealing with it, they are prepared for it. This happens even in warlike situations. So they are continuously trained into dealing with these kind of situations where you have to extract your colleagues and sometimes in the war zones and all. So they are very well aware of it. More importantly, there is this feeling of doing good for the others, trying to save their lives, and I think that drives them. Of course, they know how to deal with equipment, how to use a particular kind of equipment, whether it is through the sound or otherwise. These days, the equipments with regard to extraction of people who are stuck in the debris have improved a great deal, So it is quite easy to understand if somebody is alive or somewhere. So they try to take out the people from where those are a priority. And then, of course, it goes down how far there are, because it depends on situation to situation. So it's a physical endurance, I think, and the commitment to the cause, which is more important than what it is. The Indian Army is always known for that.
What has been the response of President Erdogan in Turkey when it comes to India helping out via Operation Dost to alleviate their problems?
Well, I think that whatever reports are coming, that they have highly appreciated both on the streets and among the leadership about India's stance and India's immediate support that has gone in. Now, of course, the rest of the Western world is also coming up. A lot of countries are sending teams. But I think we were one of the first or the first to reach there, and that is something that is appreciated. That shows two things. That India is willing to operate beyond its borders. It is willing to provide the leadership. And it is also a G20 country. As you know, Turkey, even though we had certain political differences over Pakistan and Kashmir for some time, but those are today not the reason to talk about. The main thing is to how to alleviate the suffering of the people who are under the shadow of this disaster.
You mentioned about the search and rescue teams and how dog squads also accompanying personnel to both Turkey and Syria by the NDRF and the Indian Army. What about access to medical facilities? Is there a hospital makeshift being constructed that allows for the treatment of the injured and the administration of medicines and all the other facilities that go towards treating the injured?
As you know, that we have already sent 250 personnel, in these 5 or 6 aircrafts. Now we have already deployed these teams working there, and there is I believe a 30-bed self-sustained field hospital has been created by the Indian Army, and in which advanced equipment, surgery, vehicles, ambulances. So this is a complete kind of a functional operation theater and the post-operative facilities, including X-rays, ventilators, and everything. So this is the kind of field hospitals that are created, and this Indian team has already created and is treating people.
Anil Kumarji, my final question is that, there's a current problem that both Turkey and Syria are facing, especially Turkey in terms of the number of killed and injured. How does a nation like that actually come out of it medium to long term? Because clearly the earthquake would have repercussions in the future as well.
Well, for that matter, actually any natural disaster or calamity that happens to any country causes a very major problem. And I must say that it has psychological problems for the people who are bereaved, who have lost their loved ones. So it is extremely difficult for them to get out of it in a short time. It takes time. It requires a lot of counseling and rehabilitating those people over time. But those who have lost their dear ones, for them it is a permanent loss. Many of them, it will take time for them to get employment, time to get their life back to normal. It takes years before people can really get out of these kind of traumas.
Well, thank you so much, Anil Kumarji, for being with us on this program on All India Radio.
Thank you so much.
Discussion on Operation Dost, India's relief and rescue operations in Turkey and Syria.
Thank you so much.
This is All India Radio, giving you the world news. Now let's have a look at G20 event this week.
G20 India 2023. One Earth, one family, one future.
The week saw a build-up of events and deliberations in the run-up to G20 summit under India's presidency on September 9th and 10th this year. The G20 Energy Transitions Working Group deliberations came to a close in Bengaluru on the 7th of Feb with shared views and consensus on priority areas. Power Secretary Mr. Alok Kumar said that grid interconnections like the One Sun, One World, One Grid can lead to better utilization of available energy sources. The focus at the deliberations was on the energy efficiency of industries and reduction in carbon footprints. The session on universal access to clean energy underlined the need to manage fuel prices and choice of technology. Member nations favored a people-centric energy transition mechanism. On the sidelines, India signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand Growth Triangle Joint Business Council. The purpose is to further promote the adoption of energy efficiency and sustainable practices in the region. Energy Efficiency Services Limited EESL signed the MOU with the IMT-GT JBC Malaysia, coinciding with the India Energy Week celebrations. Over 150 delegates, including G20 countries and 9 special invitee guest countries, took part in the deliberations. World Bank, Asian Development Bank, United Nations Environment Programme and many other international organizations joined the meet. The next Energy Transition Working Group meeting is scheduled in the first week of April in Gandhinagar.
You are here to set the agenda for the world, and that agenda will not be complete unless we talk about energy security as well. Energy transition with energy security and energy availability, access. There are about 800 million people in the world without access to energy.
We will hand in hand with India, support ideas, working together with India. I think we are fully supportive to India's team.
It's an amazing experience. We thank the government and the people of India for the warm welcome and the great hospitality. It's not unusual for the Indian people to be so friendly.
India has done an amazing job in welcoming us to Bangalore. It's a really great opportunity for all of the G20 countries to get together and to work together on the clean energy transition.
Another major outcome was that Brazil, India and the United States, as leading biofuel producers and consumers, agreed to work together for development of a global biofuels alliance along with other interested countries. This alliance will be aimed at facilitating cooperation and intensifying the use of sustainable biofuels, including in the transportation sector. It will place emphasis on strengthening markets, facilitating global biofuels trade, development of concrete policy lesson sharing, and provision of technical support for national biofuels programs worldwide. It will also emphasize the already implemented best practices and success cases. The alliance will work in collaboration with and complement the relevant existing regional and international agencies, as well as initiatives in the bioenergy, bioeconomy and energy transition fields. These include More Clean Energy Ministerial BioFuture Platform, the Mission Innovation Bioenergy Initiatives, and the Global Bioenergy Partnership, among others. The Youth 20 Inception meeting this week was another attraction. It was held at the Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati, from the 7th to the 8th of February with over 150 youth delegates from G20 countries. The Youth 20 meeting focused on the themes of peace building and reconciliation, future of work industry, climate change and disaster risk reduction, youth and democracy and governance, health, well-being and sports. The event provided a platform to connect with the youths and consult their ideas for a sustainable and progressive future. The first Tourism Working Group meeting held at the Run of Kutch, Gujarat from the 7th to the 9th of February concluded on Friday. The meeting included 2 side events, an inaugural session, 2 days of working group meetings on the 5 identified priorities, a series of bilateral meetings and excursion visits. The working group meeting was preceded by a side event on the evening of the 7th of February on the theme Rural Tourism for Community Empowerment and Poverty Alleviation. At the panel discussion, panelists gave presentations and held discussions highlighting the best practices, success stories, prospects and issues in the field of rural tourism. Discussions were held on 5 priority themes, including green tourism. All the 5 key priority areas set for the deliberations were endorsed by all G20 members, guest countries, and international organizations. On the last day, a second side event was organized on the theme Promotion of Archaeological Tourism, Discovering Shared Cultural Heritage. The Tourism Working Group will reconvene for 3 more meetings, including a ministerial meet in Goa. A ministerial-level communique and the Goa Roadmap for Tourism as vehicle for achieving sustainable development goals are the planned deliverables.
I see Urban 20 or U20 as a great opportunity for global peer learning.
I believe the cities will take up the opportunity to raise their ideas and recommendations to the G20 process, particularly on priority issues such as climate change and climate finance in cities.
Enjoyed a wonderful heritage walk around Ahmedabad, and it's just beautiful to see how the city is trying to take care of its heritage, realizing that it's an integral part of the identity.
Amazing visit to this incredible site, the house of one of the greatest leaders of entire world, Mahatma Gandhi.
The 2023 U20 chair of Ahmedabad had identified 6 priority areas on this year's G20 theme, One Earth, One Family, One Future, that are critical for inspiring city-level actions to respond to global agendas, encouraging environmentally responsible behaviors, ensuring water security, accelerating climate finance, championing local identity, reinventing frameworks for urban governance, and planning and catalyzing digital urban futures. As the chair city for the 6th U20 cycle, Ahmedabad called on cities to work together in a spirit of solidarity and with the objective of deepening their collaboration and to collectively find solutions that are in sync with the overall objectives of the G20. The U20 Mayors Summit, set to take place in July 2023, will allow U20 cities to present their joint recommendations to the Government of India as President of the upcoming 18th G20 Heads of State and Government Summit, set to take place on the 9th and 10th of September 2023 in New Delhi. The first meeting of G20 Environment and Climate Sustainability Working Group concluded in Bengaluru on Saturday on a positive note to restore degraded land, promote blue economy along with coastal sustainability, enhance biodiversity, prevent forest fire and marine littering, and strengthen circular economy. A discussion was held on the roadmap to tap natural resources without harming the environment, to protect flora and fauna and biodiversity of our planet. The LIFE initiative that focuses on behavioral changes in people towards disposal of waste was also appreciated by the member countries. The visit of delegates to Kalkere Arboretum and Banirghatta Biological Park in Bengaluru provided insights into forest restoration models and ecotourism models adopted in Karnataka. Secretary Leena Nandan informed that on the 21st of May, G20 delegates will participate in the Sea Beach Cleaning Drive at 13 locations in India. This is an effort to create awareness on the menace of marine littering.
We elaborated on the roadmap, where we feel that there can be a lot of experience sharing and collaboration, so that ultimately some good actionable strategies can develop in terms of becoming guiding principles for all the countries to work together for restoration of land, for tapping the potential of circular economy, and for blue economy activities. So this is just an overview.
The inception meeting of the G20 Empower Group of Ministry of Women and Child Development has started in Agra on Saturday. The theme of the meeting is empowering women to lead across sectors, role of digital skilling and future skills. The discussions of the G20 Empower Inception, spread over 2 days, will set the context for successive meetings and influence what the future holds for women at all strata. As a side event, an exhibition is being held to showcase the works of women-led micro-enterprises, women artisans and craftspersons from various states. The upcoming week will see the first agricultural working group meeting in the Sherpa track from the 13th to the 15th of February in Indore. A seminar on digital inclusion and excursion as a side event is planned in Lucknow on the 13th of February. So keep tuning into All India Radio News for the latest on the G20 in India.
G20 India 2023. One Earth, one family, one future.
India's Minister of State for Information and Broadcasting, Dr. L. Murugan, has hailed the Jaffna Cultural Centre as an iconic centre. Speaking to the media in Jaffna, he said that the centre is fully funded by India through a grant. He will participate in the event to dedicate the centre to people Saturday morning. Dr. Murugan added that the foundation was laid for the centre by Prime Minister Narendra Modi during his visit in 2015. He mentioned that Mr. Modi was the only Prime Minister to have visited Jaffna. The Jaffna Cultural Centre project was built under an Indian grant at a cost of $11 million. The centre will provide suitable social infrastructure for the people of Northern Province, especially those residing in Jaffna, to reconnect themselves with their cultural roots and rest of the country. The centre comprises a theatre-style auditorium with a capacity of 600 people, a multimedia library with online research facilities, exhibition and gallery space, and a museum. He noted that under India's Neighbourhood First policy, India has helped Sri Lanka through various projects. He highlighted India's role through development cooperation with the India housing projects, railway projects, redevelopment or construction of schools, and renovation of historic Thirukkeeswaram temple. Dr. Murugan said that to improve connectivity between the two countries, initiatives like the resumption of flights between Jaffna and Chennai have been undertaken. He also mentioned that ferry services between Karaikal and Kankesanthezurai will begin soon. UN Human Rights Commissioner Volker Turk called on Friday for the deployment of specialized armed forces to Haiti to help the Caribbean nation fight gang violence. Mr. Turk added, violent gangs are creating a living nightmare for thousands of people. It is time for international community to help the Haitian authorities regain full control so this suffering can be stopped, he added. Prasar Bharati Chief Executive Officer Gaurav Dwivedi has said that AIR will soon start broadcasting news in local dialect in the tribal Bastar region of Chhattisgarh. During his visit to the state capital Raipur, Prasar Bharati CEO said that the union government has provided about 2,500 crore rupees for the expansion of All India Radio and Doordarshan. He said Prasar Bharati is trying its best to reach out to maximum number of people through its news and entertainment programs through Doordarshan and All India Radio. In cricket, India have won the first test match of the Border Gavaskar Trophy tournament against Australia by an innings and 132 runs in Nagpur. Aussies struggled with the bat on day 3 and were bowled out for 91 runs in their second innings. A quick look at the headlines once again. Union Minister for State of Information and Broadcasting say India will continue to stand by Sri Lanka at all times, inaugurates visits Jaffna Cultural Centre in Sri Lanka. G20 meeting on environment and climate sustainability concludes in Bengaluru. India continues Operation Dost in quake-devastated Turkey. Syria permits international aid in rebel-held areas. IMF calls for reforms in China's existing growth model and predicts a slowdown in the long term. G20 Tourism Working Group meet in Rann of Kutch extends support to green tourism-based priorities. And in cricket, India wins the first test at Nagpur against Australia by an innings. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Iran. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.